Futures are on the rise Friday morning, attempting to regain some of their losses from this week. The March canola contract advances $7.30 at $574.30 per ton, and the May contract gains $7 at $584 per ton. There's support for canola coming from increases in European rapeseed, along with Chicago soybeans and soy meal. Declines in Chicago soy oil and Malaysian palm oil are tempering further gains. Modest upticks in global crude oil prices are lending support to the vegetable oils. Scaled down end-user buying is likely providing additional support to canola, but demand continues to lag behind the year-ago pace. Canadian Grain Commission reports as of February 11th, year-to-date producer deliveries of canola are down 16.6% at 8.92 million tons. Canola exports of 3.78 million tons trail by 28%. However, domestic usage is up 5.2% at nearly 5.81 million tons. The Canadian dollar is a pinch higher on Friday morning, with the loonie at 74.16 US cents compared to Thursday's close of 74.11. In the United States, March NOLA futures lost $9.50 per ton so far this week, with Thursday's settlement at about $353. Malaysian palm oil is down 17% over the last 2 weeks. A proposed U.S. ban on palm oil imports due to low carbon fuel standards is said to be at blame. As Argentina continues to get rain, Reuters says soil moisture conditions in parts of the country are now adequate to optimal. France reports its wheat crop is 68% good to excellent compared to 93% a year ago. Rounding off prices at the Chicago Board of Trade, soybean futures are higher on Friday morning. The March contract rises 8 cents at $11.70 per bushel. March soy meal adds $3.70 at $343.20 per short ton, but March soy oil sheds almost 0.2 of a cent at 45.83 cents per pound. Chicago corn is slightly higher, with its March contract bumping up 1.5 cents at $4.19 per bushel. Chicago oats are higher, with its March contract gaining 6 cents at $3.88.5. The U.S. wheat complex is steady to lower, with Chicago March unchanged at $5.67. Kansas City March loses 4 cents at $5.72, and Minneapolis March tacks on a half cent at $6.58.5. A reminder that markets in Canada and the U.S. will be closed on Monday for holidays. That's a look at the ICE futures and the Chicago markets for Friday morning, February 16th. For MarketsFarm.com in Winnipeg, I'm Glenn Halleck.
When you live where we do, a snowblower is a must. And Butler Farm Equipment has a great lineup to check out, including MK Martin 3-point snowblowers and blades, Farm King skid steer hydraulic snowblowers, 3-point snowblowers and blades, plus HLA attachments including snow buckets, snow pushes, snow wings, salt and sand spreaders, and blades. Butler Farm Equipment, decades of delivering great service in the Peace Country. To learn more, see them on Facebook or at butlerfarmequipment.ca.
The opinions expressed on this show do not represent those of the station. If you've missed any of this show, you can follow the podcast at energeticcity.ca. Welcome to This Week in the Peace, a show dedicated to the people, events, and news of BC's Peace region. Here's your hosts, Dub Craig and Jordan Prentice.
Thank you very much for joining us today. I'm Dub Craig.
And I'm Jordan Prentice. Later, I'll be speaking with Fort St. John Huskies head coach Todd Alexander. The Huskies wrapped up the regular season last weekend and currently rank first in the Northwest Junior Hockey League. We'll chat with Todd about the season and how things are looking heading into the playoffs.
But first, Peace River North MLA Dan Davies hosted a town hall last night on crime over at the Lido and invited several members of the opposition shadow cabinet and other local politicians to take part. To talk a bit about what he heard last night at the gathering and how he intends to advocate for the government to do more on the public safety file, I'm joined now by Prince George-Mackenzie MLA and Shadow Minister for Public Safety and Solicitor General Mike Morris. Mike, welcome to This Week in the Peace.
Good morning.
I've said the name right twice now, so
we're
starting off well.
It's hard to mess this one up.
Thank you so much for being here today. Let's kind of just start with some of the things you heard from people last night at this town hall. I mean, it sounded like it was a packed house. It was very busy. What were people saying saying to you and the panel about how they're feeling on the public safety file?
A lot of frustration with the justice system, a lot of discussion around the opiate crisis that we see, the overdose, the number of deaths that we have, and all the mayhem that causes. So, but the frustration was paramount, and people really don't know what to do. It's getting worse instead of better. Our court system is not supporting what we see going on out there. And basically, in my view, our entire society is paralyzed by the opiate crisis, and it needs some major overhauls to take place.
I mean, it seems like the NDP, I'll say anyway, I think their heart was maybe in the right place with what they wanted to do, but there's been zero support for, okay, we've decriminalized things, but how do we get these people who have addictions, who have mental health struggles, both help that they need? There hasn't been any real support of that happening, has there?
No, there hasn't. Decriminalization has been an absolute failure right across the country. In fact, anywhere it's been tried in North America, it's been a total failure. And, this is a social experiment that's been going on now for probably 20 or 30 years. And we see the outcome is not getting better in any of the jurisdictions that have tried this. So it behooves me. I can't understand why the NDP carry on in this vein when we have 7 people a day dying right across British Columbia. Not only that, one of the other factors that causes me a lot of concern is the number of people that overdose and end up with acquired brain injury as a result of those overdoses. I looked on the BC Centre for Disease Control website, a few years ago, and I looked at these statistics. And I think there was something like 10 or 15,000 a year that were diagnosed with acquired brain injury in our emergency rooms. And that was 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. So how many do we have out there right now? And it just gets worse. Every time you overdose, that acquired brain injury keeps getting worse.
I mean, I guess you could sort of say, okay, well, a simple solution is let's build more jails, hire more police. I know you have a policing background. Can we just put these people away who are committing crimes? I think that's one comment I saw, being discussed on Facebook recently. It's got to be more complex than that. There has to be a better way than just let's put these people away, right? And I think, Kevin Falcon and you are trying to pressure the government to do more than what they're doing now, correct?
It's not a complex issue. It's simply provide addictions and recovery beds for anybody that requires it. Period. And build them regionally so it's accessible to people in Fort St. John, Dawson Creek, Prince George. Doesn't matter where you live. And that's in our Better Is Possible platform that we put out there. The second part of that is also to build psychiatric facilities for those that suffer from mental illness, but also those who suffer from that acquired brain injury that I mentioned earlier. And I think if we did that and provided that wraparound service, and some of them need to, we will need to bring some legislation in play that will put them in these institutions, for lack of a better term, perhaps against their will, but for the betterment of their health and well-being until they're able to function on their own. So that's easy. It's going to cost money to do that, and it'll take a few years to get that up to speed. I think once we do that, we're going to see a significant decrease in the amount of crime that we see on the street, and it'll free up the police resources that have now spent too much time defaulting to look after, addictions and mental illness issues, and concentrate on the criminal element of these bad folks that are taking advantage of these disadvantaged people who are addicted and suffer from these mental illness issues.
What about kind of organized crime? I know there's been talk a lot about that recently, and I think even from law enforcement that this is a small group of people who are causing a lot of what's going on from, whatever their dealings happen to be. Is that something else you're hearing, not just here, but even, in other parts of the province if it's been a town hall or just a discussion with constituents on this file that you've been hearing kind of as the Shadow Minister for Public Safety?
It is. I got 2 sons in the RCMP as well, and they're both dealing with organized crimes and guns and gangs here in BC. It's a serious issue right across the province, and it's these organized crime groups that are taking advantage of I call it the doctrine of prescribed immunity that our federal and provincial government seems to have adopted, that if you suffer from any one of a number of different ailments or you have a history of abuse in your background, that you don't have to pay the penalty, that you will be the crime and your sentences will be mitigated accordingly to whatever your circumstances are. Organized crime takes advantage of that. They will make sure that they bring people in and involve them that fall under this prescribed immunity, so that it leaves them, pretty solid. They won't get hit. And so that's part of it. The other part of it is our courts have to start taking this more seriously and holding these people in custody. There was, the Supreme Court came out a number of years ago and they said, everybody must be presumed innocent, and therefore the default is to release them pending trial. Well, how many times, if you've got 27 records of violence, 27 criminal accounts of committing violence in the last 5 years, we still consider you innocent? I think we need to revisit that, and I think the prosecution in BC should be appealing some of these release provisions to get that clarified by the Supreme Court eventually.
Mm-hmm. Now, is there in your mind, any merit to the idea that the court system is overwhelmed, and as such, maybe more investment in that somehow? I obviously, I don't know the answer, but expanding the number of judges, the number of courts, the number of people available to deal with these situations, so that I think we hear catch and release used a lot, so that isn't happening as much, because they can actually deal with these things in a timely manner. And as you say, people who are guilty and get found guilty actually go to jail in a timely manner and kind of serve their sentence. Jail, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think we've got, the court system is not equipped to deal with addictions and mental illness, period, full stop. But it's been the default filter, I guess, that we have here. And if we were to build these recovery treatment centers with no arbitrary timelines, you stay in those treatment centers until you're better, and when you're released, you have a wraparound service. But we also build these regional psychiatric centers as well to deal with people. That would take so much of the pressure off of the criminal part that we have. The police would be able to complete technically elegant investigations. If you screw up with a criminal investigation, you stand the chance of wasting millions of dollars on that. And so this would give the police time to concentrate on those technically elegant investigations and get charge approvals and 100% conviction rates, and then our courts would be able to function properly. So the opioid crisis, like I said, has paralyzed our society. It's paralyzed our justice system. It's paralyzed our medical systems, and it's paralyzed our housing systems and everything else. So we need to address those things. And once we do that, I think we would start seeing the rest of our social pillars that we have in our communities functioning properly.
Mm-hmm. One more question on kind of the town hall you attended last night. Anything come up that surprised you that you hadn't heard before? Or again, is this, when you're hearing from constituents in other parts of BC, has it been pretty standard, like, yep, this, as you said earlier, this is a problem across the province right now?
It is. There was nothing new last night. It could have been in any community that I visited over the past 10 years. The issues were the same. The frustrations were the same. And the heightened I guess frustration is the best term for it, of the community members here. It was very apparent.
Mm-hmm. So one more question for you, Mike, before we let you go then. I mean, I know you want to form government once the election is called. That's everybody's objective, every party. But before then, in this upcoming legislative session, before a possible election in the fall comes, what are you and the BC United going to do to get the NDP to look at this, to maybe even make some changes before then, so that we could start mitigating sort of the situation that's been going on? What's kind of your tactic, I suppose, in talking even to the Minister of Public Safety and say, these are real problems and you're not currently dealing with them?
Yeah, it's, we have been putting pressure on them in every legislative session. And we will continue to do that for this session as well. It's really hard to get traction in the media for the things that we are doing. When we take somebody to task in the legislature, QP is a more of a theatrical experience, but that's where we get a lot of the grounding for the media attention that we do get. But every single one of my caucus colleagues are holding these guys to account every minute of the day, whether it's at the committee stage or it's in question period or whether it's outside of that forum.
All right, Mike. Well, I really appreciate your thoughts on this. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes to talk to us this morning.
My pleasure. Thanks very much for having me.
You're very welcome. That's Mike Morris, the MLA for Prince George-Mackenzie and the Shadow Minister for Public Safety and Solicitor General. Be right back to talk to Todd Alexander of the Fort St. John Huskies right after this on This Week in the Piece.
Extra cash is always a good thing, right? Then join Rhythm Auctions March 16th for their next spring auction. Rhythm Auction is now accepting vehicles, industrial equipment, lumber, trailers, farm equipment, and so much more. Turn your assets into cash at Rhythm Auction March 16th at 9 a.m. and don't be late. Call 250-261-4198 or check out the details at rhythmauctions.com. Don't miss the spring sale Saturday, March 16th, Rhythm Auctions in Charlie Lake.
Carter's Jewelers can be a great help if your jewelry has been stolen or if you've lost it. Over the years, we've helped countless people deal with insurance needs, and we can provide free estimates. We know what it's like to be robbed. Carter's Jewelers, 9908 101st Avenue.
You're shopping around for an automobile.
Come see Ford City Chrysler.
You're trying to find the very best deal.
Looking for a fine pre-owned vehicle? Fort City Chrysler has cars, trucks, minivans, and SUVs, four-wheel drive pickups, and diesels too. Many with remaining factory warranty. And they're all quality inspected and ready to go. At Fort City Chrysler, you're buying from your hometown dealer. No pressure, no hassles, just honesty and integrity. Only at Fort City Chrysler, only in Fort St. John.
Stay safe with a strong project partner. Stay safe with Straight. Bring a superior safety record and project delivery approach to every project. Straight is dependable, transparent, always. And as always, a proud supporter of the oil and gas industry. Straight. Come see us on the Old Fort Road or at straight.ca.
The Great Canadian Oil Change is back in Fort St. John with a brand new state-of-the-art facility. They offer oil changes in 15 minutes, tire rotations, and all regular maintenance needed for your vehicle, all of which can be done without having to leave your car and with no appointment. Whether it's a simple swap like changing a taillight or something a little more in-depth like changing your fuel filter, their expert technicians know how to keep your car on the road. The Great Canadian Oil Change, now open on the corner of Alaska Road and 101st Street. Convenient, trusted, expert care. You can watch this show live on Facebook, catch the replays at energeticcity.ca, or be a part of the show by texting your thoughts to the Fort City Chrysler line at 250-787-2222.
Welcome back to This Week in the Piece. I'm Jordan Prentice, and today I am joined by Huskies head coach Todd Alexander. Todd, thank you so much for joining me today.
Appreciate it.
Of course. So let's talk about the Huskies. The Huskies finished off the regular season last weekend with a 36-5-1 record and currently ranked first in the Northwest Junior Hockey League. Todd, last time we spoke about the Huskies was in December. The Huskies had been undefeated since early November, and although you guys were seeing success on paper, you told me that it had been a challenging season so far, kind of full of adversity. What were some of the challenges you guys faced in sort of the first half of the season?
A little bit of turnover this year with some new players coming in and learning some of the stuff that we do. It took a little while to get them the reps that they needed. On top of that, we lost our captain 6 games in. We were missing him for 15 weeks. We lost an assistant captain for the year. He had a pretty severe injury as well, so he's been out. We lost another guy that had been around for quite a while. Went through some championships with us, and he'd be a 20-year-old player. He'd be playing right now if we still had him as well. With these on and off losing players, not just for like one night or 2 nights, stretches of 4 or 5 games. Missing our top 2 centermen for bulk of the season, having to train new guys to learn those positions. Missing our top goal scorer. I think he maybe got 15 games in this year. So lots of different moving parts every night. Guys playing in different roles every night. A lot of the young guys got way more ice time than normally we are able to divvy out and break them in a little bit slower. They were kind of thrown into the fire by trial. And I thought that we've done a pretty good job. We used our affiliate players this year, thanks to the U18 trackers and to the U18 Prince George team. We snuck a couple games in there from their players too, but we used their affiliate players the most that I had in 13 seasons that I've been doing this now. So yeah, it was challenging that way. You'd feel like you'd take a step forward with your roster, and then you'd take 2 back after a weekend. But the men kept grinding, and it wasn't pretty. We don't have a whole bunch of guys up in the top scoring of the league like we have been in the past, and it's been really by committee. And each night and each weekend, it was a different player stepping up. So that was exciting for us to find these guys and allow them to grow into these roles. And I think we're better for it now that we're coming into playoffs here.
And when you guys kind of came back after Christmas, I'm pretty sure you had your captain, Curtis Lee, back, which was great. Tell me how things improved from January to now.
Yeah, we started to get some bodies back. The captain came back. He came back about mid-January. Like I said, he was gone for 15 weeks. He wasn't gone. He was around the team a lot. He never missed any games. Thank you to him for really putting the effort off ice and helping us out with a lot of the young guys answering the questions, making sure he was there mentoring them and supporting them all the way through that. So that was big on him. His leadership really helped us out through that. I know it's not an ideal season for him to have to go through that, but just how he stepped up and did whatever he could from the position that he was in was huge. Some of our new leadership figured out how to lead, which sometimes takes time too, and we encourage those guys to lead their own way and figure it out, and that's what they had been doing as well. And we had a couple guys really step up and start chopping wood for us and bring guys into the fight, and that helped out a lot with some of the younger players as well. So they had mentors too to look up to, and it just different guys were really starting to come around. And then we picked up a high-end defenseman, and he ended up breaking his ankle, so we're hoping to maybe get him back at the end of the playoff run here too. So it's just like I said, it was 1 step forward, 2 step back, but I think with the bye that we ended up earning in the regular season this year, came right down to the last game of the year, was exciting for us as well. Playing meaningful games right through the end will help us out for what we got coming up for the second season here. It just at the end of the day, you can't really point it onto one individual. A lot of guys got their hand in this, and I think that's going to be helpful for us going forward, because that's what it's all about, is dealing with adversity. And I think these guys have dealt with so much this year that it's almost like they get to the rink and they dish it up on their plate, and if they don't have adversity, they don't know what to do with themselves. So that makes for a real mentally tough hockey club, and that's what we got this year, and I'm pretty proud of the group and the performance that they put in.
Great. And so up until last Friday's 3-1 loss against the Grand Prairie Wheat Kings, the team was on, I tried to count it this morning, I think you guys were on a 26-game win streak. Yep. How did the team take last weekend's loss, and how are they feeling heading into playoffs kind of with that loss? I know that the Wheat Kings, a couple of the guys have told me that they consider the Wheat Kings the rivals. So
yeah, we've had a good rivalry with Wheat Kings over the last few years now. I think we've played them in the finals 3 years in a row. So I mean, naturally that they have a chip on their shoulder against us, and they show up. And credit to them, they've got a great coach. I hope their coach wins Coach of the Year this year. He definitely deserves it. He got that hockey club 2 weeks before the season started. The transformation that he's made there has been incredible, just as far as like how their personality is, how they play. The discipline in their game and their structure is tenfold to what they've had in the past, and he's a really good human. So, good credit to him. They came in, played a great road game, played a real quiet, boring game, took advantage of the mistakes that we were making that game. We couldn't find our energy or our footing all game long. It was very vanilla for us. So, a good learning lesson that, it was great that we had a 26-game, streak going, but really, at the end of the day, right before playoffs, it humbled us, gave us a little slap in the face, and I think sometimes in this sport you need that so that we're not walking into things just assuming that we're going to win. Again, a little bit more adversity for us, and it made the next game against Peace River meaningful for us, and we had to step up, and we didn't have the best 2 periods to start that game either, but the third period we put our foot on the gas, and we showed the club that we can be, and I think that's the important part, and it was a good night for the boys to clinch first that way.
And if the Huskies win the league this year, I believe it'll be their 5th consecutive championship win. I would like to know what kind of methods you implement as a head coach to kind of get the team into that championship winning mentality.
Yeah, I think really at the end of the day, our culture is the most important thing. I know a lot of people talk about culture, but we really work at it every day. It's a work in progress. It's not just from the coaching staff. We've laid out, the outline of what it is, but at the end of the day, the players have bought into it over the past few years immensely. They're the ones that push it now. I just gotta kind of tweak it here and there and make sure that we're still paying attention to it. But it's really people first. We care about our guys. It's a love thing. They love each other in that room, and they make sure that that everybody may have different roles, and sometimes some of those roles are a little bit more important, but the status on the hockey club is all the same, and everybody has the same status no matter what type of ice time or what position that you're playing or what shift that you're being given by the coach. And I think that they have an equal understanding to that. No one gets treated any different on our hockey club, and it makes it a lot easier for them to come into the room and then give their best effort out on the ice, especially at this level. It's important that you got guys buying in like that, because it's tough to lay down and block a shot if someone's picking on you or doesn't like you or making you feel like you don't have the same status to what everybody else does. So I think it's important that we maintain that, and going forward, the players are the ones that are pushing that right now, and it's very impressive.
And the Huskies have a bye for the first round of the playoffs. Can you just explain how that works, maybe for people listening who don't know?
Yeah, so this year all 8 clubs technically made playoffs, but the 2 clubs that finished 7th and 8th, which was Sexsmith and Fairview, they just finished a best-of-3 play-in. Sexsmith won that 2 games. So now 2 will play 7, 3 will play 6, and 4 will play 5 in a best-of-5 for the next couple weekends here. So we'll rest up, and then we'll get the lowest-seeded team that comes out of that mix. Starting March 1st, I believe, is when we'll have our first home game in the playoffs.
Okay. And speaking of home games, every home game I attended this season, it was just remarkable to see the turnout of fans showing their support. How much of an impact do the fans have on the Huskies on ice success, do you think?
I think it's a massive impact. I mean, we put a lot of effort into the community. We've done a lot of things with the younger groups in minor hockey and making sure that we're involved in that. I coach a lot of minor hockey myself. I'm involved with the U7s and the U15 team, and our players go out to different practices here and there. We got a couple guys that are training some of the teams in minor hockey with their off-ice fitness and things like that, and just the kids that are able to interact with our players, coming on and off the ice, the signatures downstairs after the hockey games. The 7th pup is big. We really appreciate Dunhebert doing that, and that's been a massive thing for our group in order to stay connected with these young guys that are looking up to them. And then we did a good job this year where we had the 4-on-4 with the U7s, where they came out and played for 5 minutes in between, and we had 5 of those games, and that went off like a hit. And so, I mean, being in the community and sharing it with the community and making the community proud of us, for us to go out and represent the name of Fort St. John is important to us. And I think going forward, you'll see the support come out when we put the effort into the community. They put the effort into us, and I think that's what you're seeing going on right now.
So moving along here, I just have a few more for you, Todd. The Huskies had their annual awards night last night. What were some highlights?
I think the highlights are always, obviously handing out those awards to the guys that are the recipients, and just seeing them have that smile and the little bit of pride that they're on their face for their body of work. I mean, it doesn't mean that everybody else didn't put in the same amount of work, but there's a few guys that stuck their head up a little bit more than other people, and they got recognized for it. And it's an important night for us, and it's always a little bit lighter. You know, you got some parents there, you got some billets there, and we get to joke around a little bit and have a little bit lighter side and have some fun together. And we did a brunch this year so the boys can go out and make sure that they got to Super Bowl that night and have their Sunday fun day together. And so it was a good event. And like I said, there's some guys that stuck their head up a little bit more, and they're well deserved of what they got. Okay, last question for you here, Todd. As the Huskies head coach, what would you say is your biggest takeaway from the 2023-2024 season so far? Just the sense of commitment to each other. We've always had pretty tight groups over the years, and again, we had a lot of turnover with the young guys. We had a lot of turnover in our leadership group this year, so there was a lot of things that we had to go through, and just how proud I am. I touched on it earlier, just the adversity that we've gone through. That would have folded a lot of groups, but we just figured it out and we ground it out. And generally we were used to winning 5-1 games and having guys up at the top in the scoring leader box, and just having high power offense. And all of a sudden we were winning 2-1 games, 3-1 games, overtime games. And so just the fact that the men really do a good job of deflecting negativity. They stay very positive to each other, even when coach is a little bit upset sometimes or grinding him out and doing his job. But really, at the end of the day, the sense of commitment to each other is incredible on this hockey team, and I think that'll help us immensely going forward. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Todd. I look forward to seeing how the Huskies fare in the playoffs this year. Appreciate the support. Course. That was Huskies head coach Todd Alexander. We'll be right back to wrap things up on This Week in the Peace.
Get ready for the High on Ice Winter Festival, presented by Peace Country Rentals, February 16th to the 19th on Family Day weekend.
Head down to Centennial Park for M&P ice slides, professional ice carving, live music, and Urban Systems Lil Chipper's Kids Carving Wall. Plus, High on Ice Winterfest is bringing back the Fire and Ice Tower during the closing ceremony. Check out the full schedule of events online and have an awesome Family Day weekend.
For more information, visit fortstjohn.ca/ice.
Before the Peace is an energeticcity.ca podcast, now available on all major platforms, that highlights Indigenous voices in Northeast BC. Host Trey Lapushinsky will take you on a journey with an Indigenous lens on the history of the Peace region.
You're going to hear my interview with Stuart Cameron, a former chief of Soto First Nation and the Treaty 8 Tribal Association. We delve into some milestones and just the overall work that he put in as chief in the Northeast, as well as his work in the oil and gas sector.
Thanks to Troy Ventures for making this show possible. Follow Before the Peace wherever you get your podcasts.
Imagine dropping your phone.
Oh my God!
Terrifying, isn't it? But it happens all the time. Luckily, Micro Consulting does screen repairs. Whether I've dropped my phone and now it's scratched kind of situation, or I've spilled coffee on it, panicked, dropped it in a parking lot, and now my screen is shattered kind of situation. Go see the crew at Micro Consulting for repairs, accessories, and screen protectors. For next time. Micro Consulting Sales and Service, keeping you connected on 100th Street and on Facebook.
If you're looking for a peaceful place to escape, stop into Peaceful Pages. They're pleased to offer a quiet space for you to sit and read, catch up on some work, gather with a couple of friends, or even have Bible studies. Peaceful Pages Christian Bookstore on 101 Avenue in Fort St. John.
Moose Country weather. You can expect to see a high of 0 degrees today and sunny skies. Later tonight, -10. And then tomorrow, sun's going to come out again, high of 0 degrees. Sunday, you can expect a high of -6, sunny skies. And on Monday, high of -7, sunny skies. But I do want to mention there is a special air quality statement in effect right now. The Ministry of Environment and Climate Change Strategy, in collaboration with Northern Health, has issued a dust advisory for Fort St. John because of the high concentrations of coarse particulate matter in the air.
You're listening to the all-new This Week in the Peace with hosts Dub Craig and Jordan Prentice. Be a part of the show by texting your thoughts to the Fort City Chrysler line at 250-787-2222.
That does it for our show this week. Thanks to our guests Mike Morris and Todd Alexander for joining us today on This Week in the Peace.
You can listen to the show again by checking out the podcast at energeticcity.ca/podcasts. We'll store this and future episodes of the show there as we make them. Also, check out our locally produced podcast, Before the Peace and Secrets of the North as well.
That's our show. I'm Dub Craig.
And I'm Jordan Prentice.
Be well.
Join us again next Friday at 10 a.m. for another edition of This Week in the Peace, your weekly talk show dedicated to the people, events, and news of BC's Peace region. Or you can listen to this podcast again at energeticcity.ca.